The mission no one returned. From the sky above, the alien base was dark and full of smoke. Ships flew in the distance like metal birds. Inside the command hall, tall and proud alien soldiers stood in a line. Their armor was shiny. Their eyes were cold. In the center of the room, one creature stood out. He was not tall, not armored, not alien. He was human. His name was Rig. He stood calm even when everyone else stared at him like he was trash. "This is a joke," one alien officer said loudly. "He won't last 5 minutes on Zarnok 7. Another alien laughed. "He'll be eaten before he even takes a step." The alien commander, General Varkle, walked forward. His sharp eyes glared at Rig. "Human," he said in a deep voice. "Do you understand this mission is suicide?" Rig nodded. "I understand. You are being sent to the jungle planet Zarnok 7. No one has returned alive. It is full of monsters. One of them is called Tharn. Even we fear it." "I'm ready," Rig said simply. The room went silent. Some laughed again. Others looked shocked. No one knew why a human volunteer had agreed to this. No one knew that. Rig had a plan. The dropship opened its doors. Hot, thick air hit Rig's face like a slap. The planet smelled like mud, rot, and something burning. Huge trees covered the sky. The jungle was alive. It growled. It whispered. The ship lifted off. Rig was now alone. His boots sank into the soft ground. He looked around. Strange birds flew above. Far away, something screamed. A deep, angry sound. He didn't flinch. He took out a small metal whistle from his jacket. It didn't look important, but it was old. Very old. Rig closed his eyes and blew into it. The sound was high and soft, barely heard by human ears. Then he waited. Minutes passed. Then came the roar. It shook the trees. Leaves fell. The ground vibrated. A shadow moved between the trees. Massive, silent, deadly. Tharn. It stepped out slowly, huge as a truck. Black fur, glowing yellow eyes, and sharp teeth longer than Rig's arm. Scars ran across its body like old battle marks. Tharn locked eyes with Rig. It growled. But Rig didn't move. He stared back. He dropped his weapon to the ground. Tharn stepped closer. Its breathing was heavy. Hot air came from its nose like smoke. Rig slowly sat down. He placed the whistle on the ground. "I'm not your enemy," he said. Tharn stepped even closer, just a few feet away now. Its paw was large enough to crush Rig's skull. It raised one clawed foot. Rig closed his eyes. A second passed, then 2. But no pain came. Instead, he felt warm breath on his face. He opened his eyes. Tharn was sniffing him. Rig didn't move. The beast sniffed again, then let out a low, strange sound, almost like a growl mixed with a question. It sat down. It didn't kill him. Far above, inside the alien ship's command room, General Varkle stared at the monitor. "Is this glitching?" he barked. "No." "Sir," said the tech officer, eyes wide. "The human is alive. The tracker shows no struggle." "What is he doing then?" The officer zoomed in. The screen showed a tiny figure, Rig, sitting calmly. A dark shape stood near him. "That can't be. Is that Tharn?" Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped their mug. Varkle's face turned pale. Back on Zarnok 7, the night came quickly. The jungle got darker. But Rig built a small fire inside a hollow tree. He sat near it, tired, hungry. He felt a soft thump. He turned. Tharn was back, and in its mouth, it held a dead animal. It dropped. It near Rig, then sat again. Rig stared, confused. "Are you feeding me?" he asked. Tharn looked away like it didn't care. But Rig smiled. "You're not a monster," he said. He pulled out a small knife and started to cut the meat. Tharn just sat there, watching the fire, calm. No one had ever returned from this planet. It was a death world. But tonight the planet had accepted a human, and the beast had made a choice. Not to eat him, but to know him. Rig looked into the flames and whispered, "This isn't just survival. This is the beginning. The beast of Zarnok 7. The cold wind passed through the thick jungle trees of Zarnok 7. Giant leaves moved like hands brushing against each other. Strange insect sounds filled the air. The fire Rig had made was now low. Only soft orange light remained. He sat quietly inside the hollow tree, staring at Tharn. The beast didn't move much. It just sat near the entrance, watching the darkness outside. Its ears turned at every sound. Every few seconds, it let out a soft growl. Not in anger, but in warning. Rig whispered, "Are you guarding me?" Tharn didn't reply. Of course not. But something in the way it sat, alert and proud, made Rig feel safe. Earth, many years ago. A young Rig, only 10, sat in the dirt behind a forest shelter on Earth. His parents were researchers. His father trained wild wolves, helping them return to the wild. One day, a big black wolf had been injured and was dying. All the adults stayed back, afraid. But young Rig had walked up slowly, offered a piece of meat, and sat beside it. The wolf didn't bite. It licked his hand. From that day, Rig understood something most people didn't. Trust begins in silence. Back on Zarnok 7, morning came with a red sun rising over the jungle trees. Light slowly pushed back the shadows. Rig stretched his arms and looked around. Tharn was gone. Panic hit him for a second. He grabbed his knife and stood up. "Where did you go?" he said softly. Suddenly, a loud crack came from behind. Rig turned quickly, knife ready, but it was Tharn, and in its mouth was something shocking. Fruit. A large red alien fruit, round like a melon, shiny like glass. Tharn dropped it at Rig's feet. "You brought me breakfast?" he asked, surprised. Tharn snorted and turned its head like it didn't care again. But Rig smiled. He cut the fruit open. Sweet scent filled the air. He took a bite. Juicy, soft, sweet. Tharn watched, then stepped closer and gently nudged a second fruit from under its thick arm. For itself, they ate together, quiet, calm, like two old warriors sharing peace after battle. Deeper into the jungle. After 2 days, Rig began moving deeper into the jungle. He needed shelter, water, tools, food for longer days. Tharn followed, sometimes ahead, sometimes beside, sometimes behind, but always near. They crossed rivers. Rig built bridges with fallen logs. Tharn swam beside him, never afraid. They passed, ruins covered in moss and thick roots. Signs that someone, something, used to live here long ago. At night, Tharn would growl low and deep. Rig always understood it as a warning. That's when the stalkers came. The night attack, Rig heard it first. Clicking sounds, soft and fast. The trees stopped moving. The air went still. Then shadows crawled down the branches. Creatures, long, thin, with too many legs. Eyes glowing red. Stalkers, 4 of them. Rig backed into the tree, knife up. They jumped. Before the first could land, Tharn was in the air. A roar exploded through the jungle. One swipe, and a stalker hit a tree so hard it broke in half. The second, beast lunged for Rig, but Tharn grabbed it mid-air and crushed it with his jaws. The third bit into Tharn's leg, but the beast didn't even flinch. It rolled and crushed the attacker under its weight. The fourth tried to escape, but Tharn leapt, faster than anything Rig had ever seen, and tore it apart mid-run. The jungle fell silent again. Rig stood frozen. Tharn was bleeding from the leg. A thick green-blue liquid oozed out. "No," Rig whispered, running to the beast. "You saved me. Now let me help you." Healing the beast, Rig didn't have medical tools, but he had knowledge. From Earth, from his parents. He searched for healing plants, ones he had seen glowing near water earlier. He crushed the leaves, mixed them with water and soft vines, and pressed them against Tharn's wound. Tharn growled, not in anger but in pain. "It's okay," Rig whispered. "You'll be all right." The beast looked into his eyes. something passed between them. Something more than survival, respect. Silent bond. 3 days passed. Tharn's leg healed fast, far faster than any earth animal. By the 4th day it was walking strong again. But now, it was different. Tharn didn't just follow. It walked beside Rig, like a protector, like a friend. When birds flew overhead, Tharn stayed close. When the wind changed direction, Tharn sniffed the air and waited before moving forward. When Rig found more ruins, Tharn growled and stood between him and the broken walls, like it remembered something. A new name that night by a quiet lake, Rig sat near the fire. The water glowed softly from strange fish underneath. Stars above made the jungle silver. Tharn lay near him, eyes half closed. Rig looked at him and said, "You're not just a beast. You're a warrior, a survivor." He placed his hand on Tharn's thick fur. "I name you, brother of the wild." Tharn opened one eye and let out a soft sound, not a growl, not a snarl, but something, almost like a purr. The jungle had given birth to many monsters, but now it had created something new, a bond between human and beast, something no alien army could ever understand, something far more powerful than fear. Hunter turns hunted. The jungle never truly slept. Even when the stars filled the sky and the night turned cold, strange sounds echoed from every corner. Hisses, growls, cracks of movement. Something was always watching. Rig sat by the glowing lake, sharpening his knife with a flat stone. The fire near him burned low, its flames dancing against the wind. Beside him, Tharn lay stretched on a bed of leaves. One ear twitched. His eyes were half closed, but his body remained tense, alert, ready. They had survived more days than anyone ever expected. But survival was not the same as safety. The watchers far above, hidden in the branches of the high canopy, small golden eyes blinked. A creature clicked its sharp teeth together. Behind it, more moved. Thin arms, long claws, short wings folded tight. These were Vixian hunters, jungle killers who didn't hunt for food, but for sport. And tonight they had chosen a new target. The first sign. Just past midnight, the wind changed. It was no longer warm. It carried a strange smell, faint, sharp, bitter. Rig's hand paused. He sniffed the air and frowned. Tharn stood without a sound. He sniffed too, and his muscles tensed. "What is it?" Rig whispered. Tharn didn't move. Then without warning, Tharn jumped and slammed his massive paw into a nearby tree. Crack! A shriek came from above as a shadow fell from the tree and landed hard on the ground. It twisted, snarled, and dashed back into the dark, but not before Rig saw its shape. Thin, fast, pale skin like bone, claws that glowed faint red. "Hunters," Rig muttered. Tharn growled. They weren't alone anymore. The trap by morning, Rig and Tharn had moved. They didn't run, they planned. Using vines, Rig set traps between the trees. Tripwires made from sticky plant threads, spikes hidden under leaves, pits dug near narrow paths. Tharn marked trees with claw cuts, signals they both understood. At noon, the attack began. The first Vixian dropped from a tree. It stepped on the eye. Wrong leaf. A hidden vine snapped and the ground beneath it opened. The beast fell into a pit of sharpened sticks. Screams echoed. Then silence. But the others did not retreat. More came. 3. Then 5. Soon the jungle shook with their screeches. The chase rig ran, Tharn beside him. They didn't head for safety. They ran toward the enemy. Rig knew fear, but today, he used it. He lured them into the traps. Tharn moved like a shadow, fast, deadly. He leapt into the air and tackled one Vixian mid-flight. Its bones cracked like dry wood. Another came from the side. Rig spun and stabbed with his knife. Not deep enough. The creature shrieked and slashed his arm. Blood ran down Rig's elbow, but he didn't stop. He picked up a burning branch and thrust it forward. Fire. The Vixian screamed and vanished into the trees. The fall. Branch snapped beneath Rig's foot. He slipped and tumbled down a slope, rolling through roots and rocks before landing in a shallow ravine. His leg twisted. Pain shot up his side. He couldn't move. "Tharn!" he shouted. Above, shadows moved. Claws scraped against stone. 3 Vixians stood at the edge of the ravine. They saw their chance. They jumped. Rig raised his knife. But he knew it wouldn't be enough. He whispered, "This is it." Then the sky above exploded in a roar. Tharn. He dove into the ravine like a falling star, smashing into the Vixians with crushing force. One went flying. Another bit into his shoulder. The third slashed his side. Tharn roared louder than Rig had ever heard. He slammed his body against the wall and crushed the last hunter. Rig crawled up and pressed leaves to Tharn's wound. The beast's breathing was heavy, but his eyes were clear. "You saved me again," Rig said, shaking. Tharn gave a soft grunt. Low, tired, but proud. No more running by the next day. They had left the ravine and found higher ground. A large cliff overlooked the jungle. Rig built a fire and wrapped Tharn's wounds in fresh vines soaked in healing plant juice. They stayed quiet for hours. Rig stared at the jungle below. Then he said softly, "They're not going to stop. This planet wants me dead." He turned to Tharn. "But I'm not just here to survive anymore." He pointed to the distant valley. "We're going there. I saw something yesterday. Old ruins, half buried." Tharn looked at him. "There's something out there," Rig said. "And I think you know it." Tharn's tail tapped the ground. Agreement. Hunter becomes hunted. That night, Rig set no traps. He didn't need them anymore. He had Tharn. The last few Vixians came quietly. No screeches. Just cold hunger. But they were too slow. Tharn moved like wind. Rig moved like shadow. One by one, the hunters were picked off, never even knowing they had become the hunted. By sunrise, the jungle was quiet again. Too quiet. Something had changed. Rig stood on the cliff with his armor made of beast scale and his spear made from alien bone. Tharn stood beside him, scars across his side like badges of honor. They didn't speak, but both knew. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of something greater, far above. Inside the alien command ship floating in orbit, General Varkle stared at the latest scan. The human is alive, still moving. He's killed the Vixian packs. A silence filled the room. An officer swallowed hard. And the beast? The screen zoomed. A huge shape walked beside the human, calm, proud. The entire command room watched in silence. No one laughed anymore. The ancient secret. The red sun rose slowly over Zarnok 7. Its light touched the jungle leaves like fire, casting long shadows through the trees. A new day began, but it didn't bring peace. It brought discovery. Rig and Tharn stood at the top of the cliff, staring down at a wide valley below. Mist covered it like a soft blanket. But something strange stuck out from the trees. Sharp corners, broken walls, and metal shining under vines. Ruins, ancient, forgotten, and not alien. The descent. The climb down was slow. The rocks were slippery and the jungle thick. Rig moved carefully, his armor creaking with every step. Tharn followed, his heavy paws pressing the ground silently. Birds scattered as they moved. Small creatures watched from holes in trees. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. No sounds, no wind. Even the jungle didn't breathe here. As they reached the valley floor, the fog parted. Rig stopped. Before him stood a massive stone gate, half buried in dirt and moss. Symbols were carved deep into the walls, but they weren't alien. They were Earth letters, faded, broken, but still readable. United Earth Colony 7, Research Sector. Rig's breath caught in his throat. This was human, he whispered. The broken lab. They stepped inside the structure. Vines covered the walls. Rusted computers stood dead. Glass chambers lay cracked on the floor. Skeletons of machines and shattered lab tools scattered the hall. Rig moved from room to room, brushing away dust, reading broken screens. Project, Guardian Beast. Integration, status, terminated. All personnel, lost. Reason, biological rebellion. What were they doing here? Rig muttered. Then he saw the next screen. It flashed one word. Tharn. Rig turned slowly. The beast was standing in the middle of the room, staring at the broken chamber behind him. It was large enough to fit his body. Claw marks scratched inside the glass. Rig's voice cracked. You were born here? Tharn didn't move. His eyes were locked on the broken machines. Memory in the dust. Rig found a power box and rewired it using cables and battery parts he carried in his pack. The lights blinked. A projector turned on. A video played. An old scientist appeared. Human. Gray hair. Shaking hands. This is Dr. Lyra Kane. Final log. We tried to merge Earth knowledge with native Zarnok DNA. It was a mistake. The beast we made, Tharn, wasn't just smart. He was aware. He saw what we were doing, and he fought back. The video shook. We were wrong. He wasn't a weapon. He was a protector, a guardian species created to protect us. But we treated him like a monster. Explosions echoed in the background. Screams. The video cut to black. Rig stood still. Tharn turned away from the chamber quietly. He had not just survived the jungle. He had survived humans. The rage of the beast. The sky outside darkened. A storm was building. Thunder rumbled through the jungle. Rig sat at a broken desk reading more logs. He learned that Earth had sent many missions here centuries ago. All had failed. Colonies were lost. The last one tried to create guardians to survive the wild. But when the guardians rebelled, Earth abandoned them, left them to rot. One of them was Tharn. And yet, he had saved a human, protected him, trusted him. Rig looked at the beast, now standing in the doorway staring at the falling rain. You were betrayed by my kind, Rig said. Tharn didn't growl. He didn't look back. But his silence spoke. Rig stepped closer and gently placed his hand on Tharn's shoulder. You're not alone anymore. The awakening lightning lit up the ruins. Rig returned to the lab's core and saw a map, an old signal beacon still working. It pointed to something large under the valley floor. Storage Vault 9, the label read. He followed the path shown on the screen, leading him and Tharn into a hidden tunnel. The air grew colder. The walls turned to metal. Then, a door. Massive, sealed. Rig pressed a button. Nothing power was dead, but Tharn stepped forward and placed his paw on the floor. It lit up. Blue light traced up the walls. The door clicked open. Rig turned to Tharn. You were always the key. Inside, the vault was full of stasis pods, long metal cylinders glowing dimly. Inside them, creatures like Tharn. Not alive, but not dead either. Suspended in sleep. The choice Rig walked among them, awe on his face. There were more of you, he said softly. Hundreds. He looked at Tharn. Do you want me to wake them? Tharn stared at the nearest pod. He stepped forward and sniffed the glass. A strange whine came from his throat. Rig saw pain in his eyes. And then, he saw something else. Hope. Above the jungle. On the alien command ship in orbit, the officers stared at the new scans. Sir, one said to General Varkle, voice shaking, we've found the source of the human signal. Where? Varkle barked. An old Earth ruin. Underground. And, sir, it's activating. The screen showed power readings climbing fast. Varkle's eyes narrowed. Send the strike. Team, kill the human. Kill the beast. Now. Below. The warning rig stepped out of the vault and into the rain with Tharn. He looked up at the sky. Then he saw it. Distant lights falling through the clouds. Ships, troop carriers, weapons. "They're coming," he said. Tharn growled deep in his chest. But Rig didn't run. He turned to the vault's console. "Let's wake your family." He pressed the command key. One by one, the pods began to hiss open. Steam rose, eyes opened, and the jungle was about to rise. Return of the human. The sky split open with the sound of thunder and engines. Fire rained down from above as dropships pierced the clouds, heading straight for the Valley of the Ruins. The alien empire was no longer laughing. They were coming to kill. Not just the human, not just the beast, but everything that woke in the vault. The awakening. Inside the ancient underground chamber, steam hissed as the stasis pods unlocked. One by one, the metal lids slid open. Inside each pod, massive figures slowly began to move. Tall, strong beasts like Tharn, but each slightly different. Some had silver fur, others dark red. One had horns curling backward, another had longer claws than a sword. They all blinked, in confusion. Hundreds of years had passed since they were sealed away. Their memories were slow to return, but one thing was clear. They saw Tharn. He stepped forward, limping slightly from past wounds, and let out a deep, slow growl that echoed through the vault. It wasn't a threat, it was a call. Rig watched in awe as one by one the Guardians answered. They let out soft growls, howls, grunts, ancient voices awakening after centuries of silence. Rig stepped beside Tharn. He didn't look like a soldier. He wore dirt-stained armor made from jungle bones. Scars covered his face and arms. But his eyes burned with purpose. "They're coming for us," he told them. He didn't know if they understood his words, but they understood his voice, and they followed. The invasion. 12 dropships slammed into the jungle with fire and noise. Alien soldiers rushed out in formation, tall insectoid creatures with black armor and red visors. They carried pulse rifles, flamethrowers, and sonic grenades. General Varkle stepped out last, surrounded by his elite guards. "Fan out," he shouted. "Find the human, kill the beast, leave nothing standing." The soldiers moved like a swarm. Trees were torn down. Fire spread. Animals ran in fear. But then, the jungle answered. Ambush of the Guardians. The first squad moved near the lake. Suddenly the trees exploded. A massive guardian beast dropped from above, crushing 2 soldiers with a roar that froze the blood. Laser fire filled the air, but another beast charged from the left, slamming into the attackers like a landslide. From the shadows, smaller guardians moved quickly, clawing weapons out of soldier hands, disarming them before they could scream. It wasn't just war, it was nature, angry, alive, and united. Return of the human back at the top of the cliff, smoke rose in the distance. Rig stood in full gear, now armored in black and silver beast scale, a bone-crafted spear in one hand and a laser pistol in the other. Beside him stood Tharn, larger than ever, his fur burned but eyes bright. Behind them, 12 guardian beasts, a new pack, a new army. "Time to go home," Rig said softly. They marched. The showdown as the battle raged below, General Varkle stepped into the ruins. His soldiers guarded every entrance. "Still no sign of the human?" He barked. "No, sir," one soldier replied. "But the beasts, they're organized." Varkle's face twisted. "Impossible. They're wild." Suddenly, silence. The jungle went quiet. Then came the sound. Footsteps, slow, heavy. One by one, guardians stepped into the clearing, surrounding the ruins, and then Rig appeared. He walked through the fire and smoke like a ghost from another world, alive, strong, not as prey, but as alpha. The faces of the fallen alien soldiers froze, their rifles lowered. Even the bravest among them stepped back. "No," one whispered. He was supposed to be dead. General Varkle's face turned white. Rig stopped in the center. He looked at the man who had sent him to die. "You dropped me on a death world," Rig said calmly. "No armor, no backup, just to laugh at the human." Varkel's voice shook. "And yet, here you are." Rig smiled coldly. "Yeah, with friends." Tharn stepped forward and roared. The sound cracked walls. Birds flew miles away. Varkel aimed his rifle, but Rig raised a hand. "I'm not here for revenge." He pointed to the beasts surrounding them. "I'm here for justice." The Decision More dropships appeared in the sky but didn't land. Their pilots saw what waited below. A human leading beasts larger than tanks. A jungle that fought back. And the ruins of a lost Earth colony now glowing with ancient power. Some ships turned away. Others hovered. But no one fired. Varkel dropped his weapon. "What? What do you want?" he asked. Rig walked forward until they stood face to face. "I want them to see what you feared most," Rig said, voice low. "That a human and a beast didn't just survive, they united. You can't erase that." He stepped back. "You wanted me to die." He pointed to the camera drones flying above. "Now the whole galaxy will see me walk out alive, with your nightmare at my side." The March rig turned. Tharn followed. The beasts moved behind them, leaving the stunned soldiers frozen in place. No bullets fired. No attack came. The Empire had no order for this. No training for this. A human who returned from death, riding with monsters. They watched as he walked through the battlefield and disappeared into the jungle once more. Later, in the High Council chamber of the alien empire, news screens flashed. "Human survives death planet. Beast walks beside him, not as a monster but as family." The death mission failed. The legend begins, alien leaders argued. Should they silence him or study him? But it was too late. The story had already reached every star system, and millions were listening. The uprising begins. The galaxy was whispering. Across dusty planets, silent moons, and glowing cities floating in the clouds, everyone had seen the YA broadcast. A single human left to die by an empire had walked out of a jungle of death, leading monsters that no army could tame. And he didn't return for war. He returned to change everything. Voices rise in the shadows. In the slave mines of Gralin 3, workers gathered around a small hollow screen. The video played again. Rig stepping through fire, Tharn beside him, his eyes full of calm strength. One worker whispered, "He didn't just survive. He came back with the wild at his side." Another growled, "If he can stand against them, maybe we can too." On a distant trade moon, a group of alien merchants watched the same footage in silence. They said humans were weak. One murmured. "They lied," replied another. The seeds of rebellion were being planted, and Rig didn't even know it yet. In the heart of the jungle, Rig stood in a clearing, surrounded by ancient trees and stone pillars from the old Earth colony. Tharn rested nearby, his deep breaths calm but ready. Around them, nearly 50 guardian beasts had awakened. They were rebuilding. Rig had taught them how to signal, how to scout, how to lay traps again. These creatures were intelligent, but they had been alone for so long they'd forgotten what they once were: protectors. Now they followed his voice. He wasn't their master. He was their link to something lost. The visitor one evening, while smoke from cooking fires drifted into the sky, a strange ship appeared above the jungle. Rig raised his spear. The guardians moved in silence to surround the landing zone. But when the ship opened, a single alien stepped out, hands raised. It was a young diplomat from the Ravkai Union, one of the smaller galactic powers. He spoke slowly, respectfully. "We saw what you did. Many of us are tired of the Empire's rule. We wish to speak, to listen." Rig narrowed his eyes. "You're not afraid?" The diplomat gave a small smile. "Afraid? Yes, but more afraid of doing nothing." Rig looked at Tharn. The beast didn't growl. The meeting began. The spark catches. Fire over the next few weeks, more ships came. Small, hidden transports, unmarked vessels, smugglers, rebels, old soldiers, even scholars, all wanting to speak to the man who tamed the jungle. Rig listened. He spoke little. But when he did, his words were strong, simple. You left us, lied to us, tried to erase us, but we are still here. One Ravkai general stood and said, You've shown us something new, something wild and pure. Let us stand with you. Rig looked around at Tharn, at the other guardians, at the ruins, then he spoke. We don't need your armies, we don't need your ships. He pointed to the jungle. We have this. The Empire strikes back inside the Empire's capital. The High Lord Chancellor slammed a clawed hand on the table. This human is dangerous. Another replied, He's one man. No, the Chancellor snapped. He is an idea. And ideas are harder to kill than beasts. They sent assassins, elite hunters, spy drones. None returned. Some were found torn apart by unseen forces. Others simply vanished. Rig had the jungle on his side, and the beasts didn't forget. The fire begins. On the planet Githal, a city guard refused an order to arrest peaceful protesters. When asked why, he said, Because I saw the human walk out of fire with monsters as friends. I believe in something better now. In the floating markets of Ventros, banners appeared overnight. Painted on cloth, metal, walls, everywhere, a man and a beast. Side by side. Not as master and pet, but as equals. It wasn't a rebellion yet. But it was no longer silence. It was a rumble before the storm. The plan one night under the stars. Rig sat with Tharn beside a burning log. He spoke softly. They think this will die down, that I'm a moment, a rumor, a show. Tharn made a low noise like a deep breath from the earth. They don't understand. I didn't survive for revenge. He pointed to the stars. I survived to remind them what power really looks like. Tharn looked at him, eyes calm and wise. Rig smiled. Not control, not fear, but trust. He stood. The uprising won't begin with fire. It will begin with a whisper that grows so loud the whole galaxy shakes. The first strike a month later. The Empire's weapons facility on the frozen world of Dothar was breached. Guards found only broken fences and strange claw marks in the ice. The main energy core was gone. Inside a hidden jungle command tent, Rig studied the stolen data crystal. Power grids, security patterns, planet blueprints, he muttered. One rebel beside him whispered, This could break their control. Rig nodded. But we won't fight like them. We don't need their cities, we take their voice, their tools, their grip. He held up the crystal. And then, when they finally see us coming, it will already be too late. The Empire begins to fracture. In the royal palace, news arrived faster than the Chancellor could stop it. Weapons stolen, troops vanishing, planets refusing orders, jungle beasts spotted near borders. One report stood out. Some of the guardian beasts have started speaking. Everyone froze. Impossible, one general shouted. But it wasn't. The guardians were learning, remembering, becoming what they once were. Sentient allies, not just wild muscle. And the man who had walked with them was now leading them all. Back in the jungle, Rig stood on a high cliff, wind blowing through his torn cloak. Tharn was beside him, calm, scarred, proud. Behind them, hundreds stood, beasts, aliens, humans, outcasts, rebels. The jungle below was no longer a wild land. It was a kingdom without walls, and the world had begun to fear it. Rig turned, raised his spear. The galaxy sent me here to die. Instead, we have shown them something better. The crowd shouted. One voice cried, What now? Rig answered with only 3 words. Now, we rise. From exile to emperor, across the stars, the galaxy held its breath. What started as a suicide mission had become a legend. What was once a forgotten jungle had become the center of a rising storm. And the man they tried to erase was now rewriting history. A new council inside a grand open hall carved from stone and roots deep in the jungle. Voices echoed, not in chaos but in unity. Rig stood at the center. Beside him, Tharn, the great guardian beast, who once had no name but now was honored by many. Around them sat leaders, alien diplomats, freedom fighters, scholars, even former imperial officers who had defected. There were no golden thrones here, only a single stone ring where voices were equal. "We are not here to replace an empire," Rig said, his voice calm but strong. "We are here to end fear." One rebel leader stood. "But what about the warships? The Emperor still sits on the Iron Throne." Another added, "He controls the skies, the systems, the laws." Rig looked around. "And yet he's afraid of a jungle." Silence followed. Then, nodding heads, the final message. The galaxy watched as a broadcast spread through every screen, every tower, every drone network. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was a story. Rig stood in front of the ancient ruins of the Lost Earth colony. Beside him stood Tharn. "No army, no threats, just truth. I was sent here to die," he said. "I was called weak, a joke, a human lost in a jungle full of death." He stepped aside, revealing the new city growing from the ruins made from stone, metal, plants, and life. "But I didn't die, and the jungle didn't kill me. It saved me." He looked at Tharn. "This is Tharn. He is not my pet. He is my brother. He remembers what your empire tried to bury." The camera zoomed out. Hundreds of guardian beasts stood in the background, silent, watching, waiting. Then Rig's voice returned. "We are not here to destroy." His eyes narrowed. "But we will no longer kneel." The message cut out. The Emperor reacts inside the golden tower of the imperial capital. The Emperor watched in silence. His long cloak dragged across the shining floor. He turned to his war ministers. "End this," he ordered. "Burn the jungle. Kill the beasts. Silence the human." Orders were sent. An armada of 50 warships was launched, the largest attack force in history. The final stand begins. As the ships approached Zarnok 7, the skies darkened with thunderclouds and fire. The jungle below glowed with hidden energy. Guardians moved like ghosts between trees. Rebel units stood ready with stolen tech. Alien species who once fought each other now stood side by side. At the center, Rig stood on the same cliff where it all began. Tharn stepped beside him, eyes scanning. "The skies, they're coming," someone whispered. "No," Rig said softly. "They're already here." The sky war. The first blast hit the outer jungle. Flames erupted. But the jungle fought back. Roots rose and tangled the landing gear of enemy ships. Guardian beasts leapt from cliffs onto drop pods mid-air. Storms swirled unnaturally, powered by the energy inside the old colony's core. The jungle wasn't just alive, it was angry. The beasts didn't run from laser fire. They moved through it, fast, silent, deadly. Inside one burning wreck, an alien soldier trembled as he crawled out, then froze. Rig stood before him, calm, covered in dirt, blood, and light. The soldier dropped his weapon. "I surrender," he whispered. Rig turned. "I don't want your fear," he said. "I want your truth." Inside the throne room far away on the Imperial homeworld, the Emperor received wave after wave of terrible reports. Squads lost, ships fallen, pilots refusing orders, even generals turning. One final message arrived. The jungle stands, the beasts live, the human leads, the people follow. The Emperor stared into the mirror, and for the first time in 1,000 years, Natas, he saw fear in his own eyes. The offer rig didn't march on the capital with weapons. He sent one message: "I will come alone." The Empire expected a trick, a trap, a violent act. But Rig walked alone through the palace gates. The guardians waited in orbit. He was led to the grand throne room, where the Emperor waited, wrapped in gold, sitting on his high seat. "You came without guards," the Emperor said. "I don't need them," Rig replied. "You already lost." You have no throne. I have the people. You have no army. I have something greater. The Emperor leaned forward. And what is that? Rig looked him in the eyes. I have earned trust. You ruled with fear. I lead with belief. The room went still. Then, soft. Footsteps. A member of the Imperial Council stepped forward and removed their badge. I follow him now. Another stepped forward. Then another. And another. The Emperor stood. But no one moved. He was alone. A new crown. Rig never wanted a title. But the galaxy gave him one anyway. Voice of the wild, heir of Earth, first of the Guardians. But he called himself only one thing: Rig. The jungle returned to peace. The guardian beasts helped build new cities, balanced with nature, not against it. Children of many species learned beside humans. No longer enemies, no longer separated. And Tharn? He remained by Rig's side. Until the day came when Tharn, old and tired, climbed to the highest peak of Zarnok 7 and howled into the stars. The jungle fell silent in respect. Rig stood beside, his brother eyes full of both pride and sorrow. In the last pages of history, they did not write Rig's story as a war hero or conqueror. They wrote it as a reminder that power is not always found in the strongest armies. Sometimes it is born from a single man who dared to trust a monster and became more than a survivor. He became a legend.